Hey, sports card collectors and investors. Hope everybody is having a fantastic Friday. It's actually kind of sunny here and warming up. I think that summertime is actually upon us now. So I'm probably going to try to get outside a little bit today, but wanted to get a video or two in. Wanted to address a topic, another somewhat taboo topic in the industry that I have heard, I've read about a lot in forums, and, it's something I have my own opinion on. I do want to get your opinion on it. And it's basically whether or not we are in another junk wax era of sports cards. The reason why I wanted to talk about this in a major way is because a lot of people talk about, especially, you'll hear Gary Vee talking about, you've got the 35 to 50-year-old age group that is, feeling nostalgic. Their little ones are getting into the hobby, and so they're the ones that are kind of driving things. And and while that is true, I'm surprised to see that. Well, I shouldn't say I'm surprised, but if you look at just how many people are involved in the hobby, whether it be dealers or content creators or collectors, there's a ton of young people out there, a ton of them. Maybe it's not 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds like when I was getting involved, when I first got involved. Maybe there's not as many of those today. I mean, maybe there are. But there are certainly teenagers and college kids and 20-somethings. There's a younger age group that is heavily involved in sports cards. And so that's why I really wanted to cover this topic, because those are people that did not live through the junk wax era. And so they don't really have context, for this sort of thing. And so, I wanted to address it. I was born in '81. So when I got in, I really got into cards right when the junk wax era started in 1987, 1988, and that's when I got started. And there's a few big differences. One thing that I'm sure that collectors and investors that are 20, they're probably 30 or younger, probably think is nuts, is that there was actually cards available everywhere. I mean, it was like every grocery store, every in the malls there was card shops, there was kiosks. There was card shops everywhere. There was one, I wouldn't say on every corner, but there was a lot of card shops out there. And I grew up in Panama City, Florida, which wasn't a very big town. And there was quite a few card shops. There was a couple main ones that we went to, but there was a lot of card shops that were selling and those guys were the ones selling the singles. They sold packs, of course, too, but I mean, they were selling maybe some of the harder to find packs, but they were the only ones that were selling singles. So, but I mean, the availability was insane. Gas stations, every gas station you went into, like right at the front, there would be like the gum, the Big League Chew, and the candy bars and all the candy stuff. And then there would be packs and packs of cards. And for those of you that are my age, you know exactly what I'm talking about with the Big League Chew. So I guess the main point is they were absolutely everywhere. Whereas now when cards come out, you look and it's like, all right, who's going to the Walmart and the Target, and scouring for boxes of Mosaic basketball, let's just say. That's kind of a hot one right now that people are chasing. So could you imagine if there was Mosaic in every gas station and every, this, that, and the other thing? And that's really what it was. I mean, 89 Upper Deck baseball, the famous Ken Griffey Jr. Rookie card, that set is estimated to have printed more than 1 million cards per player, more than 1 million cards for each player in that set. I mean, you're just talking like an insane amount of cards. And I think there's actually 800 cards in that set. So 800 million cards were produced for 89 Upper Deck. So when we talk about print runs today, it's one of those things. Can that happen today? Sure, it could happen. And I guess I should put an asterisk next to, the title, of my video. I don't believe we're in a junk wax era yet. Could we get to that point? Yeah. But the other thing is that, there are a lot more different types of sets now. But realistically, and I'm just going to use basketball as an example, there's really 5 to 7 sets that people are really going after every year. That are in high demand, I guess is my point. And so there's not, if you're looking at what's in demand in the print runs, you're still talking just a fraction of what they were printing, back in those days. And then, of course, you didn't have grading the same way as you do now. I mean, maybe there were some graded cards out there, but I can tell you, I remember as a kid, I remember going into the card shop and there being, the price tag and a little sticker that said near mint on it, or, good or very good or whatever. Most of the time dealers put near mint to mint on everything, amazingly, right? But the point is there wasn't grading to, create a scarcity for that card. So there wasn't grading to say like, oh, this 89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. PSA 10, that's a more rare card than just a raw one. It wasn't like that. We were all battling it out with the dealers at 8 years old as to what the price should be on a card. And I've said this in other videos. This was kind of my first experience in business, my first experience in negotiation. So, and so for those of you that are my age, you remember all these things if you were into cards back then. But I'm just thinking of the younger folks now, especially that have grown up with the internet. It's a totally different world. It's a totally different ball game. There also wasn't any, or at least that I can remember, no serial numbered cards from the late 80s to early 90s. I don't remember any. And please, if I'm missing this, comment below. If there were sets, if there were sets that had numbered cards, I think that there were maybe some autograph cards, but even that, I think it was mainly just base card sets with some inserts in there. But I don't even believe I don't remember there being scarcity even with inserts in the late 80s, early 90s. They were just part of packs. Kind of like when you look at like Fleer basketball in the late 80s, you've got stickers, you've got one sticker in each pack. So yeah, it's fairly limited, but was there a gold version of that card or a blue prism? No, there wasn't any of that. There wasn't any of those things. So just a very kind of, the market was immature back then if you're looking at where we are now. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like all the different variations and inserts and the refractors and everything else, and that's fine. But what's great is at least today you've got all sorts of options. Whatever you like to collect or invest in, you have that option. It's there. So, there's no, everybody can get in the game. It's in some capacity. If they are passionate about sports and passionate about sports cards, there is a set for you, for anybody out there. So I think that is something to keep in mind and something that's really great about today's market compared to, the market back then. And, I don't understand when I hear people saying it because I don't see the evidence, behind it. And I know that we don't have exact print run numbers for what things are now, but the internet has just revolutionized the way that the market is. Sure, are there things that could be better? Absolutely. But they've really tightened up a lot of things that have made it way better than it was in the late 80s and early 90s. Now, am I saying that every set and every card is worth investing in and every player? No, we're basically, as we're investing in players, we're investing in a player's career. They can have a fantastic couple of years and then just completely fall off the map. They could have a really bad injury. So this is a high risk, it's high risk, high reward type stuff. It's very, it's risky and volatile. So, it's not a, there are no guarantees at all. And so but it's just as far as how the market is set up, it's certainly not a junk wax era. It's just not. It's not even close to what it was back then. Now the cautionary tale is, can it happen again? Can this turn into another junk wax era? And possibly, yeah, absolutely. There could be, a variety of different factors I think that could cause it, but I think that we're still fairly insulated, even if, I know people are really kind of watching Prism, for example, and we'll just use basketball as an example. Everyone's kind of watching and seeing like, okay, print runs for Prism basketball, with the Luka effect and the Zion hype, how many more are they printing? We don't have, from what I've seen online, I haven't seen a lot of evidence to show that there's been massive increases over the last 2 years. Or let me rephrase, that there's been a massive increase from 2019 than 2018. I know that there's been an increase, from what I understand, there's been an increase in print run production each year kind of over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's just because demand has gone up, so it makes sense. But from what I've seen and what kind of the analytics that I've studied, is there haven't been drastic increases. Not drastic enough to where you're like, it hasn't gone from 10,000 for each player, cards for each player, to 50,000 for each player, from what I know. Now, of course, they don't, the companies don't release print runs, so we don't have any hard numbers to go off of, any guaranteed numbers. But I haven't seen to where it's gotten too crazy. Could that change? Yeah, absolutely, it could. So. But I want to hear everyone else's opinion too, because maybe I'm missing something. I mean, I know that there are some people that agree with me. I see it on the forums. I'm not necessarily looking for everyone to agree with me. I like to debate, and I like to, as long as it's respectful. Some people come in and just call me names, and I don't really appreciate that. But, I want to learn from my audience. I really enjoy learning from you all too. I'm no expert in this. And so just as I like to talk about some of the things that I'm finding and researching, I also like to hear from you all too, because I learn a lot that way as well. So if I'm missing something on this, let me know. And also, more importantly, if there are also factors that you see that could become an issue down the line, not even just print runs, and I know we've talked about grading in other videos and just the integrity of grading. That's also, of course, something to watch. But just in terms of print runs and things like that, I would like to hear feedback too on that front. If you have any kind of opinions or other information that you've seen online or through other groups or through industry people, I'd be really interested in kind of learning those details. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, and we will be coming back with you with more videos to come. Thanks again.